I want to talk about essentially what we're seeing in America. Ignore the haircut. Now that you're seeing me bigger, my head looks like a hat. My hair looks like a hat. But again, I've been ill. I haven't been able to go get a haircut. Yes, America, which has historically been the leader of the world, essentially, it's been the center point. Everything has to focus around America. Decisions government makes has to keep in mind how America would react. And we are at this point essentially seeing it crumble. And it's not a quiet crumbling. It's not peaceful. There are violent death throes going on. Trump is doing everything in his power to just damage as much as possible as he goes down. And it is genuinely terrifying to watch. But it's escalation, right? It's escalationism, I think that's what it's called, where constantly upping the ante, making things worse, being more extreme, being more out and about far right, Nazi behaviour. America have got a literal death squad going around, kidnapping anyone who's not white enough, killing anyone who's in any way putting up any resistance. They've got Holocaust. They're supporting a Holocaust happening in Israel and Palestine. They've got concentration camps where children are going without food for days. Like, this is escalation in the largest degree. You do not see this kind of escalation often in history, and it's terrifying, but it's not sustainable. This will reach a point where the tide will shift, I think. And whether that be through public protests in the streets, which we're seeing constantly, or some other major event, this is genuinely not sustainable. This is the result of end-stage capitalism, I think. There is a point where you cannot keep pushing for profit whilst the people go hungry. In order to be a functioning society, you need some form of... It's difficult to word. In order to be a functioning society, you need some form of payoff for the people to be dealing with the shit or the slop, right? You push through the disgusting, billionaires getting loads and loads of money. You can ignore that as long as you can afford your Costa drinks, or as long as you can afford to go to McDonald's every now and then. But the American people are losing their treats rapidly. They're seeing horrific things happening. The Americans are so primed into accepting these disgusting things. What happens in America daily would cripple a nation anywhere else. If we see the kind of school shootings that happen, or the kind of just the kind of everyday horrors that we're witnessing, anywhere else in the world, the government will collapse, right? Britain couldn't do it. I know the Americans love to talk about, if you post on Twitter, you're getting arrested. That's literally happening in America. Times 10, times 100. It could not get away with the degree of horrors that are happening in America. And that's intentional. America have primed their people into accepting the worst possible conditions, okay? It's really important to understand that through unimaginable amounts of propaganda, through the melting of the brain of the average American, America has been forced to put up with horrors, right? Daily school shootings, unimaginable difference in wealth gap between the rich 1% and the bottom 99%, out and about compromised government. Like, the American government does not fight for the people. Even the so-called left-wing option, the Democrats, it is a one-party state that is split into two different fronts of that one party, right? These things are unacceptable, but they've been primed into accepting it, unfortunately. But I don't see it sustaining. I don't see it lasting. And I think because of the position Nigel Farage and the far right, I'm going to speak particularly about Britain because that's where I am. But I'm sure you could apply this to many other places, like how we were talking about earlier with Brazil and the upcoming election between the far right and the centre left, right? this can be applied to any far right party. I think they either have to start condemning some of this disgusting behaviour, or continue to blindly encourage it or agree with it. Right? That's not a good thing for them. They're going to be losing a lot of quite realistic people and diluting their audience to only the most extreme. Like, Nigel Farage is supporting Trump through these absolute horrors. Trump's been found out to be a pedophile multiple times. He's a literal rapist, unfortunately. He's got a death squad going around killing people, abducting foreign people, all of these horrors. And the extent at which our right-wing party are supporting that turns off or pushes away a lot of regular people, I think. And that is a massive... And it's hard using such words when talking about such horrific things, but that is a benefit. I'm not saying what's happening is a benefit, but it's going to lead to some positive outcomes for other places, right? As we see the horrors, because this isn't like Nazi Germany. We see what is going on. It's not hidden behind big walls, or it's not hidden over in remote places. We are seeing the horrors. As we see more and more of this, and as our right-wing parties support more and more of this, more people will be forced to move over to the reasonable left or the central side. It's inevitable, and I think that will be the death of reform. I think this is an important thing to bring attention to. I'm predicting that the death of reform will be their continued support for Nazi America, okay? Or Israel, I think people are calling it. Israel, ICE. America's far-right decline, the crumbling of the American empire. I think Nigel Farage and the Reform Party's downfall will be mostly due to their continued support of that. Because you can't get everyday voters. Like, the Tory party presented themselves as reasonable central people, right? We're very professional. We're not woke leftists. We're not going to give everyone free things. You'll get to keep all your money. Vote for us. They presented themselves as reasonable. I mean, that's crumbled now because they were so laughably terrible for the last 14 years, and now they've all joined Reform. But that was marketable, okay? You could easily get people on your side by talking like that. They cannot present themselves as a serious party when they're advocating for ICE and they're advocating for what horrific things that America are doing. They're staying silent on the Epstein files, whilst also trying to attack people for being, they're saying, oh, we can't support trans people because it's anti-woman or anti-children or whatever, whilst they're actively staying silent on the Epstein files. That is not reasonable, and they cannot present themselves as reasonable whilst doing all these things. They either have to take a step away from the far right in America, which they're not going to do, because then it will dilute their argument. And I think a lot of decisions some politicians are making are based on what they see on Twitter, which is just absolutely ridiculous because it does not represent real people, right? There is not a horde of reform voters like you see on Twitter. A lot of them are bots, or a lot of them are the Nazis from other countries. And so they are absolutely the loud minority, if that makes sense. They are purely in your face, and that's why it feels like there's so much support for them. But there is not. There is absolutely not. And I think at the voting booths, we will see that Reform are not serious. They cannot get decent people to vote for them, right? I hope that makes sense. America have primed their people into being horrible people, and so it's easy to get them to vote for other horrible people. But there's not been as much of that in England. That's the core of what I'm thinking, right? They haven't had that lifelong of billions of pounds of propaganda priming them into being Nazis. That has not happened for these people. The people in England haven't been through, the war on terror or the Red Scare as much as America. So I really don't think by blindly relying on people's capacity to be vile, Reform are going to succeed. And I think that'll be their downfall, realistically. I mean, there'll absolutely be other factors. For example, they are just a diluted Tory party, right? They've taken on so many of the former Tory party members, and they've in the run up to them becoming quite a big party, they've been attacking the Tory party massively. And so every Tory person who joins them, there's always a tweet that you can look back on that is like Nigel Farage criticising them as never trust a Tory and all this rubbish. Yet they're bringing them into their party, and people see that, and a lot of people see that, even right-wing people, I guess, and they don't support it. They don't want another Tory party. They either want something that works, which objectively is left-wing politics, or they want horrific Nazi behaviour, which the Tory party never were. They were shit, but they were not Nazis. And you see this interesting divide in that old Tory fans are like, oh, this is great. We're bringing in all the great, the famous, the best names coming in. But new Reform fans are really frustrated seeing these people come over. They do not want another Tory party. They want a far, far right party. And as you get more Tory members, I think that will be diluted. I think it'll be one of those two things that will lead to the downfall of Reform. Again, historically, I've been quite good at predicting these kind of things. And so I'd be interested to look back and see, well, I don't know. It's hopeful to look towards a future where Reform have crumbled, but it'll be interesting to look back on this prediction, this conversation we've had. I would also like to do a quick prediction on Labour's downfall. It's always been very easy to predict. It is their right-wing pandering. Non-stop right-wing pandering from the party that was supposed to be left-wing. People voted for Labour because they wanted a difference to the Tory slop that they had had for 14 years, right? Tories have failed. They've done their right-wing thing. It has not worked. And so a lot of people were very excited. Oh my God, finally we get a new outlook, a new approach, right? Finally, a lot of people wouldn't say it like this, but finally a left-wing chance, okay? And suddenly, Labour are not left-wing in the slightest. They are constantly pandering to the far-right audience. Someone's told Keir Starmer that he needs to win the Reform vote, and he's gone, that's all I'm going to focus on. And by doing that, he has lost his entire left-wing vote. And I mean, for a very long time, Keir Starmer has been the centre or the centre-right Labour member. He was behind the real push to get rid of Corbyn. He was, Corbyn was the unrealistic lefty loony, and he was the sensible, central, slightly right-wing Labour politician. No one wants that. Realistically, no one wants that. Because it's just the Tories. You'll get the same results with the Tories. And so what he's done is, at no point will a Reform voter go, he's doing my kind of right-wing stuff. No one's ever going to do that. If you're a Reform voter, you vote for Nigel Farage because it's a bit of a cult of personality, right? Like with Trump. No Trump voter is going to go, JD Vance is doing it better. He's being better right-wing. No. They are Trump fans because Trump is Trump. It's the name that brings them in, right? Same with Nigel. I've always said, cut the head off the snake and the body dies. If Nigel Farage wasn't, not dead, but if Nigel Farage was out of the picture, no. If Nigel Farage quit politics, the Reform Party would disintegrate, I really think. And so a lot of Reform voters vote for Reform because of Nigel, okay? And at no point is anyone going to go, you know what, I'm going to vote for Keir instead because of his right-wing politics. That's never going to happen. So it's inevitable that he would never make any progress with the right, okay? Despite all this right-wing pandering, that will never make any progress. And what he fails to realise is, by doing the right-wing pandering, he has hemorrhaged his left-wing base. Just not a single person who would consider themselves left is left over in the Labour Party. you get these very, very strange, diehard Labour members, and that's it. And you can really see it in the votes, and you can really see it in... I know I said don't take social media at its word, but it's mostly the right wing for that because of all the bots and all of the vocal minority aspect to it. You can get a good grasp of how people are feeling on the left, I think, based on social media. And just there is no Labour members behind. There's no Labour members left. I really think that. Gone on quite a ramble. I'm getting a bit tired. I think I'm going to leave it there. Oh, it's only been an hour and 20 minutes. I've enjoyed talking. I'm going to try and stream a bit more often. And I think if I keep the streams to over an hour minimum, but trying to get it a little bit more often, I think that's good. I shouldn't try and push it for 2 hours and then be tired for a week. I'm going to edit this video down to the best of my ability. I'm not a very good editor. And try and get some clips on TikTok and some maybe small videos on YouTube and just see if that brings anyone in. I love all the interaction with chat, but it, you know, I can't rely on that because there's not loads of people in chat. So I want to do my best to bring in some more people to be talking. My end goal would be to have right-wing people come in and have discussions with them. Hopefully discussions, not arguments, but, you know, at least talk to them about things, their viewpoint and where they get that from, and see if I can just bring people over to the left. I genuinely just want to make things better. I see the world crumbling, and I want people to be nice to each other, and that's my goal here. So, yep, maybe some new videos I'll try and put out. If you are watching the video that I've edited, I'm sorry if I rambled or anything. Please make sure to subscribe if it's on YouTube, or follow if it's on TikTok. It'll probably be, I reckon, there. Or it looks like I'm pointing to my... No, never mind. Follow, subscribe. Join me on Twitch. I'm going to try and go live Thursday, Saturday, Monday. Thursday, Saturday, Monday. That's my goal. If I can't, I don't really care. It's fine. But come say hi. Or if you're right wing, come have a discussion. I really want to try and improve the world, you know?